The internet's beauty and its downfall is that anyone can post whatever they want. While there's plenty of insightful and fascinating information to go around, the internet is also flooded with the incoherent babble of children and the mentally unwell. YouTube is home to thousands of channels created by these types of users, screaming into the void, amassing almost no views. We've all occasionally stumbled upon these types of accounts online, and it doesn't take long to realize that their contents are clearly a waste of time. But what if, amidst this deluded raving, one of these users were telling the truth about a grand conspiracy? This is the story of Virtue Films 1, and his quarter-century-long vendetta against iconic musician and former associate, Bob Dylan.
The Ivory Door.
On July 1st, 2024, Reddit user Rexbox posted r/internet mysteries regarding a strange but unsuspecting YouTube channel. A strange YouTube account, Virtue Films 1, has uploaded hundreds of incoherent videos alleging Bob Dylan of stealing James Damiano's songs, eager to know what's going on. Rexbox seems concerned about the mental well-being of the channel's owner, and it's not hard to see why. The channel features an obsessively dedicated 12-year-long catalog of videos related to a man named James Damiano being allegedly plagiarized by Bob Dylan. Rexbox goes on to highlight that there are over 600 videos, most covering Damiano's legal battle against Dylan.
Would you say that the words were more important than the music?
The words are just as important as the music. There would be no music without the words.
Which do you do first, ordinarily?
The words.
Do you think there will ever be a time when you will paint or sculpt?
Oh, yes. Oh, sure.
Do you think there'll ever be a time when you'll be hung as a thief?
You weren't supposed to say that.
After stumbling upon Rexbox's post, I decided to investigate the channel for myself. At first, it seemed like the standard incoherent ravings you could find on YouTube. The content of the channel is very crudely edited together using what I assume is Windows Movie Maker, and the videos often reference an expose documentary titled 11 Years. There are more videos showing a wide range of strange evidence that Dylan plagiarized Damiano's work. There's a lot of deposition footage of various people related to Dylan, although none of this really proves anything.
Many times, but on those occasions when he would ask me, could I pass on something to Mr. Dylan, I may have said to him, I'll try and pass it along, or words to that effect. Just to place that in context, I want you to know that, because I'm a truthful person.
Do you recall ever giving Mr. Damiano your fax number?
Yes.
And when Mr. Dylan, how do you reach him?
I phone him.
At his home?
If he's in Los Angeles, yes. If he's on the road, I try and locate him that way.
Do you recall saying the following to Mr. Damiano, sir?
Is there a page reference that you're reading?
I have a 1/2 on it.
Is there a debate
Oh, date's number 144.
Okay, let me just put that in front of the witness.
Sure. You state at the top of the page, or at least it appears to that you state, my job here is to pass along information to Bob. Do you recall saying that, sir? Looking
Yes.
at the top. Okay. And Bob, of course, is Bob Dylan.
Yes.
And then you say, which I think I have. Do you see that, sir?
Yes.
Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay. When you said that to Mr. Damiano, which I think I have, were you lying to him? Have you ever lied to Mr. Damiano?
Yes.
And can you list for me the times that you lied to him?
Many times, not many times, but on those occasions when he would ask me, could I pass on something to Mr. Dylan? I may have said to him, I'll try and pass it along, or words to that effect.
Footage of squirrels with no audio. Videos of a man I assume to be Damiano making sweeping claims regarding Dylan. And other miscellaneous footage. One common claim made by Virtue Films 1 that this whole fiasco between Bob Dylan and Damiano is the most important ongoing First Amendment issue of the 21st century. Despite my lack of faith in Virtue Film 1's sanity, I found myself obsessed with wanting to know more. How could someone be so dedicated to posting about this subject for 12 years if there was no ounce of truth to what they were saying? So, I set out to get to the bottom of this. At this moment, I had no idea how deep of a rabbit hole I was about to go down. In order to get to the bottom of this mystery, I'd have to first get to the bottom of who's running this channel. An obvious answer, and where I started searching, was James Damiano himself. I went back to the Reddit post and noticed that the user in the replies found a post on a legal forum in 2016 referencing Damiano. The poster, using the Virtue Films username, claims that Damiano is her boyfriend and that a gag order was placed on him by Dylan's legal team to prevent him from speaking out about Dylan's plagiarism. Often, when a mentally ill person's warped perception of the world is not affirmed, they use terms like these to imply that they are telling the truth and being punished for it. This information, along with some video content on Virtue Films 1, leads me to believe that these accounts are run by a woman named Christine, who appears in the videos and has a similarly obsessive social media presence. So, from this info, we can infer that Christine is running Virtue Films 1 for Damiano as a walkaround of this alleged gag order, and claims to be his girlfriend. A user in the Reddit post replied with a link to Christine's Quora account, and my findings were concerning. A pattern of obsessive posting about Damiano and Dylan were present, but one post in particular raised my suspicion of Christine and Damiano's stability.
Concert, if we may, to the time when you offered the tickets to Mr. Damiano before the concert actually took place. Okay. During that point in time when you offered the tickets to him and before he actually went to the concert, did you ever say to him or suggest to him that maybe he should bring some of his songs with him?
No, I did not.
Do you deny saying that, or is it you just don't recall one way or the other?
I deny suggesting to Jim that he bring songs along with him. I did, however, concur with him when he asked me, do you think I should bring my songs with me? I said, sure, why not? What could it hurt?
The text content of this post included a few paragraphs which also get copy-pasted into the description of every single Virtue Films YouTube video. This repetitive text is seemingly the pitch for a previously mentioned expose documentary titled 11 Years, which I suspect both Christine and Damiano believe is the key to correcting this perceived injustice committed against them by Bob Dylan. It makes sense that they would believe this, considering that their social media presence seemingly is centered around promoting this film. I found personal social media accounts in which this man claims to be James Damiano. I have no idea what to make of any of this, but I'm going to continue the investigation under the assumption that Virtue Films 1 is the real Damiano, as I found no conclusive proof that he's an imposter. With everything we've gathered, here's the picture so far. James Damiano and his girlfriend Christine obsessively post semi-coherent content on social media accusing Bob Dylan of plagiarizing Damiano's work. These posts have often crossed over into an unhealthy and concerning territory, and this seems like a simple case of a delusional worldview made public through the use of the internet. Through further research, however, there may be some truth to all of this. We have finally arrived at some official, genuine documentation that could explain Virtue Film 1's posts. Throughout my research, I have found numerous legal documents of a series of suits between Damiano and Sony, Bob Dylan's representative, in the early 90s up to 2000, which paint Damiano's side of this in a more sympathetic light. If you look at the facts, Dylan and Damiano did associate with each other for a decade. This is not some random crazed fan. This is someone who actually interacted with Sony and Dylan and had even allegedly worked with them.
There's a kind of a melodic character to this arc, more than just a set of shared pitches. What I will be doing shortly is I'll be leading you through an analysis, allowing you to hear how steel guitars actually projects this exact same arc as Dignity.
Why not? What could it hurt?
Where did this interview take place between yourself and Mr. Dillon?
It was over dinner at a restaurant called Il Cielo here in Beverly Hills.
And do you recall when it took place?
August 5th, 1988, in the evening, sometime around 7, 8 o'clock, something like that.
Thank you. And was anyone else present at the table with you?
Yes, Elliot Mintz, who was at the time Bob Dylan's publicist. Said before it sounded like the tour had maybe kept him from writing as much as he had in the past.
James Damiano versus Sony Music Entertainment Incorporated and Bob Dylan. And the case number is 95-4795. We're here at the offices of Parcher and Hayes, located at 500 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York. This is a deposition of Tony Tiller. This time counsel will identify themselves.
Stephen Kramer for the plaintiff.
Orange Snyder and Ruth Lott for Sony Music Entertainment, Inc. and Bob Dylan.
At this time, I have the court reporter swearing the witness.
Raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear in the testimony you're about to give that you will tell the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Tiller, good morning. You are employed by whom, sir?
Sony Music.
And how long have you been employed by Sony Music?
For 9 years on staff, 10 years if you count, approximately a year and 2 months as temp/per diem. I was promoted to Associate Director of Marketing Services.
Did you ever have in your office any compilations of any sort of Mr. Damiano's songs that you kept on your bookshelf?
When you say compilation, what?
Folder, binder, book, tablet.
Printed
material, anything.
Printed material, yes.
Okay, and draw, if you would, so I can picture it, and the jury can picture it, a verbal picture of your office, and then after you do that, where the material rested.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, so the record's clear. Are we talking about, because you may have had more than one office over the course of the years, so you might want to...
Sure, if you had more than one office, take me through it.
Okay, when I first started as a temp, I moved from office to office to cover for people who were on vacation. So
Okay, just to speed it up a touch, perhaps. If you would, Mr. Tiller, limit yourself to the offices in which these materials were ever located.
Okay, my first office, I had, the door would be, say, in that corner. Over here, I had 2 file cabinets, a table, a small table to my left attached to my desk, an art desk in that corner, a bookcase right next to that, and next to that a file cabinet.
Okay, thank you.
The book that Jim had given me would be on that bookcase.
To your right?
To my right.
Okay. And what year did you receive that book initially?
I don't recall.
Okay, and what did it have in it?
It had a bunch of songs, or a bunch of I guess, well, he called them songs, so I called them songs, but they were words written in verse form.
Was it in a binder, a folder?
It was in a binder.
Like a 3-ring binder?
3-ring binder.
And where is that today?
I do not know.
When was the last time you saw it?
When we were in the CBS building at 52 West 52nd Street.
And you're telling us and the jury you don't know what happened to those materials of songs or words?
No, I do not.
Just disappeared?
Well, when we moved from that building approximately 4 or 5 years ago, as I explained to Jim, we were to pack our own desks. We were pressed to work until the day we moved, pretty much. And the movers came in and packed everything else. There were things that were left behind.
And so could you pinpoint, Mr. Tiller, what year Mr. Damiano's book of songs or words disappeared from your office?
You did not say disappeared. You're mischaracterizing his testimony. You did not say they disappeared.
So
well, if you mischaracterize the testimony...
Oh, that's an exception to our stipulation? So that means during Mr. Mintz's deposition, every time you... Did Mr. Damiano's songs, Mr. Tiller, disappear?
Could I have you rephrase that?
Sure. What happened to his songs that had been on your shelf for how long?
1.5, possibly 2 years.
Okay. The songs, or that binder, without... That binder disappeared, did it not?
They were left in the building when we moved.
And did you ever go back to retrieve it or to ask where it was?
No, I did not. There were...
And is that building still owned by CBS?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And that's CBS's headquarters, yes?
Yeah.
And all we know now, and all the jury knows now, is that you don't have it, correct?
That is correct.
And Sony does not have it, to your knowledge.
Sony does not have it.
Right. And if we went to your office today, where your office used to be on 52nd Street, at CBS's headquarters, did you ever tell Mr. Damiano that his materials had been lost, or left behind, or disappeared?
Yes, I did.
And what did he say?
I can't recall exactly what he said. But I did tell him I was sorry.
Counsel, this is the second witness in a row, literally, who received materials from the plaintiff comprising one or more of his songs, where the materials have disappeared, whether you want to use the word disappeared, lost, destroyed, evaporated, whatever phrase you want to use. And I want the record to note that this is the second witness in a row. Mr. Mintz testified that he destroyed Mr. Damiano's fax materials. And no, not only did he destroy them, he went further. He said he shredded them.
Mm-hmm.
And now Mr. Tiller is saying that the binder of materials of songs that Mr. Tiller received got lost, disappeared, don't exist. And
Among these documents, there's some direct comparison between Damiano's writing and Dylan's published songs, and the evidence is pretty damning for Dylan. If you look for yourself, you can see a handful of lyrics too similar to be written off as coincidence. Perhaps Damiano and Christine are telling the truth. Perhaps they are simply driven a bit mad by this obvious injustice opposed on them, and express it through their obsessive posts. Perhaps, even more sympathetically to them, they are simply old, and their strange social media presence is due to a lack of technological literacy. All attempts at a lawsuit by Damiano were dismissed. Is this an indicator of a corrupt legal system, refusing to serve justice to a man who made millions plagiarizing Damiano's work? I've read the court documents, and the story is a bit more complicated than that. Although Damiano's side of the story is compelling, his conduct in attempting to sue Dylan paints the full picture as to why he never got the justice he so fervently desires. Paraphrasing my findings in the court documents, the court describes Damiano's behavior during the suits as the following. Damiano represented himself throughout all suits up until the last one in 2000, an extremely ill-advised legal decision. The court describes Damiano as chameleon-like. Damiano lied to the court about his home address, promised to the court that he would cease publishing confidential information to the internet, and then continue to do so. He was viewed by the court of conducting the suit in bad faith, and most damning of all, Damiano fabricated quite a bit of the evidence as an attempt to strengthen his stance. Despite the fact that Damiano had a solid bit of evidence between his song Steel Guitars and Dylan's Dignity, his conduct in court and incessant lying got his case dismissed forever. The court's attempt to halt Damiano from releasing confidential information of an ongoing trial explains the perceived gag order, which Virtue Films 1 still fervently posts about.
The first is the right to free speech. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent.
They did.
Although there are some unsolved questions, such as what the obituary exactly means, I think we have found enough evidence to piece together the most likely story. This is a story of a man who may have actually been wronged, but his inability to contain his self-destructive actions during the lawsuits most likely destroyed any chance of him getting justice. Whether or not Damiano is telling the truth, I will let you be the judge, because I do not believe an actual judge will be making that decision ever again. And now, after all of this, Damiano is simply yet another deluded YouTube channel, screaming into the void. As the story closes, I will leave you with this line from Bob Dylan's song, Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts. Big Jim was no one's fool, he owned the town's diamond mine. He made his usual entrance looking so dandy and fine. With his bodyguards and silver cane and every hair in place, he took whatever he wanted and laid it all to waste.